Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the first TEDx talk in Northampton. Can you do me a favour as I start my contribution? Can I ask you all just for a few moments to close your eyes? That's a safe space. We're at the Northampton School for Boys, so don't hold on to your wallets or your purses. Keep those eyes closed just for a few moments. And I want you to take yourselves back to the last time you used an elevator, the last time you used a lift. And I want you to picture yourselves walking up to that lift. And I want you to picture yourself pressing that button and waiting for that lift to come. And that damn lift doesn't come, does it? So what's the first thing you do? Feel free to open your eyes again. 99% of the population press the button again, when logically they know that it makes no difference to whether that lift will come. We logically know, don't we, that the man or the woman that made the software for the lift didn't make it based on he or she who presses the button the most gets the lift the quickest. But we still do it. Close your eyes again for me, just one more of these. I'm going to take you somewhere much more exciting. I'm going to take you on your last holiday abroad. And you've had the hassle of packing, and you've had the drive to the airport, and you've checked your bags in, and you've got that nightmare through security, and you're walking through security, and then you arrive. You arrive in heaven. You arrive in nirvana, or as we call it in marketing, the duty-free shop. And what memories does the duty-free shop evoke? It smells beautiful, doesn't it? Everybody smells beautiful. Everybody looks beautiful. Please open your eyes again. Friends, we are emotional beings. That's what those examples tell us, whether we're doing an everyday thing like using a lift or whether we're going on holiday. And the latest research tells us that emotion even drives our memory. So just 2 years ago, our world seemed to fall apart. COVID-19 hit us, and we feared quite rightly for the lives of our family and our loved ones. But the latest research tells us more and more people are looking back then with rose-tinted glasses at a time when we were closer to our families, when life seemed simpler, when people talked to each other in the street, but from a distance. So my contribution tonight is to ask ourselves, are those emotions good for us? And I'm going to start off with a quote from someone called Abjit Naskar. And Abjit says, the world would be a rather boring place if all we had was evidence, if all we had was logic. Abjit says that we need a bit of the illogical to cherish the sweetness of life. Our illogicalness cherishes the sweetness of life. But tonight, I want to take you all on a journey and explain by how using our brains, both logically and emotionally, we can break some of the norms. And for business especially, it can reach whole new levels of success. I've got a question. I so often ask myself this. When my wife gives me a verbal list of 3 things to buy at the supermarket, why do I struggle to remember all of them? But I absolutely have no problem at all reciting all of the words to the Umbongo drinks advert that I watched on the television when I was 7 years old. Now, the reason is that I do listen to my wife. I tell her, I do listen to you. But it's more about that, as Brian Ubrick from the Consumer Knowledge Centre explains, that the most successful brands know that from the age of just 6 months, we recognise mental images and we recognise sound. It is why, scary research, the first word recognised by most kids across the world is not mum, and it's not dad, it's McDonald's. But that understanding and the success of emotional selling doesn't stop in our infancy. I want to take you back to that lovely aromatic duty-free shop that we were all at a few moments ago. Why does, frankly, water that smells so nice costs so much. And you know, when global giants such as Calvin Klein and Givenchy and Dior create their magic, they don't start with the smell. They don't start with the smell. They start with, and in the case of perfume, what emotions does a woman want a scent to evoke? And their research tells them that women consumers of their products will purchase high-end perfume when it evokes emotions of things like romance and holidays and laughter and passion and confidence. And so I challenge you, watch the next perfume advert. Watch the next gorgeous people in it. They won't tell you how it smells. Oh no, they won't. But as David Corsino explains, language has a way of dulling things. Language has a way of dulling things. Now you're listening to me here and perhaps you don't care for a Big Mac. And perhaps you don't care how you're going to smell at the office Christmas party in a few months' time. Perhaps you're the sort of person that prefers to stay in and read a good book. Good for you. You know, if you do, like millions of others, when you shop on Amazon or you walk into Waterstones, I am sure, because research tells me I'm sure, that you will be tempted by the best-selling list, by the Sunday Times bestseller list, or by the recommended email you receive from Amazon. Is somebody really reading all of those books and understanding what you personally want to read? Or could those emotionally savvy sellers of literature know that the one thing that is more powerful than the synopsis on the back of the book is that thought in our head? That thought of, if so many people are reading this book, won't I be left out if I don't read it too? Martin Lindstrom, who writes a brilliant book called Brandwashed, explains that any publisher who is serious about being successful recognizes the great value of paying to have their book on the must-read section. Now, scarily, there are just 80 days from today until Christmas. So, quite a few of you look disappointed then. 80 days until, only 79 from tomorrow. And many of us will hark back, won't we, to what we talk about the simpler days, the less commercial time of Christmas in our childhoods. Did you know that our brains are hot-wired to recall our past experiences as having been far better and more pleasurable than we experienced actually in the moment? It's something, of course, called nostalgia. We've all heard of nostalgia, I'm sure. And interestingly, the word nostalgia comes from two Greek compounds. It comes from the word nostos, meaning to come home, and from algos, meaning pain. Nostalgia means coming home from pain. And a study at the University of Southampton found that an amazing 79% of people claim they experience nostalgic thoughts at least once a week. Further research showed us that rather than being a waste of time, basking in memories elevates our mood, it increases self-esteem, and it strengthens our relationships. So friends, this wonderfully powerful emotion can even lead us to remembering incidents that don't even happen. Over a decade ago, Braun Latorf did some research, and he asked people who visited Disney World which character they liked being with the most. 30% of people said they loved meeting Bugs Bunny. It's a physical impossibility to meet Bugs Bunny at Disneyland. He's a Warner Brothers character. He doesn't exist at Disneyland. So our mind plays with us. And we know that nostalgia marketing is wildly successful as a strategy for businesses who are trying to sell us things. So not only does time in an advert, for example, make us more likely to buy something, we will say, I better have that before they run out. But research also shows us that during hard times, we will turn to retro foods like baked beans and mashed potatoes that seem to have been around forever. And if you think about it, you have a crappy day at work. You say to someone, or you say to yourself, I just want to go home and have beans on toast. We hark back to things that make us feel better. So if you are here tonight and you own, run, or work in a business, big or small, how does what I'm talking about relate to you? Now, you may be sitting there thinking, well, the people I work with are not kids. They don't particularly want to smell nice. They don't read books. And from what I know, they don't eat baked beans. So what's in it for me? What's in it for me? The reality is whatever you do, whatever you sell, and whoever you sell to, you must start. You must start in the same place. And that place is about listening. Really, really listening to your customers. We live in a time where social media is so influential in our lives. And if we look at the business social media platform, LinkedIn, everyone and anyone is on there. And they're all passionate about talking about one thing, themselves. If you look at LinkedIn, there's never a shortage of vacuous, vanilla, and vanity-laden posts that have little or no focus on the people that matter, customers. And so of all the examples that I've shared with you tonight, McDonald's, Disney, Hugo Boss Noir, Amazon, yes, even Heinz Baked Beans, they all have one thing in common. They spend amazing amounts of time listening to their customers. So we know that when Disney started filming the record-breaking movie Frozen, it wasn't months, it was years before it reached our screens. Why? Why did it take so long? Because every step of the way, Disney continued to check back and listen to its core customers, listening to children, to hear their views on what they saw, what they heard, and most importantly, what they felt. Now, everybody here tonight brings different life experiences and stories. And you know, for all of you, when they write the history books of your life or your business, the pages of that book, like mine, I'm sure, will be filled with success and failure, highs and lows, tears and laughter. But the great news for every single one of us is that tomorrow's page is blank. And so my final challenge to you this evening is to ask you, what are you brave enough to write on that blank page? Because the challenge for any person or any business, big or small, is, are they brave enough to stop talking about themselves and start really listening to the people that matter, their customers, the people that matter? And it is a brave decision, as emotionally we all find it easier to stay in our comfort zones and rely on what we think we have always known. And so I'm going to end on a quote from President Francis Underwood in the brilliant Netflix series, The House of Cards, when he sums it up perfectly. President Underwood says, "A diversity of ideas makes us all wiser." A diversity of ideas makes us all wiser. Thank you.